When a wedding officiant asks if anyone objects to the marriage and someone says yes, what happens next? It's not commonly done anymore, is a vestige of a time before robust record-keeping and such. It was usually phrased something along the lines of if anyone knows why they cannot be married, meaning legally or under church rules. As in, great-grandma can chime in and say actually, those kids are first cousins from that floozy who ran away to the big city 30 years ago, and nobody talks about anymore. Or for Farmer Joe from the next valley over to inform everyone that the groom is actually already married and abandoned his family a few years ago. Things like that. Not for ex-boyfriends to profess their loved one last time. It's rare for that question to be included in weddings nowadays. That is not asked in modern weddings. However, the person would realistically get harassed by the crowd and at some point physically removed. They don't have the power to stop the wedding law that originated back in the day where you could go across the country and no one could reference check you. This was the time for someone to say no, he's married to my sister in this state, and then you would have to validate the claim. The officiant asks if anyone knows of any legal reason that the marriage cannot take place. In theory, yeah, someone could stand up and say she's only 17 and in Washington state they'd have to, investigate that claim. Former pastor here. I take the objector aside with a witness, usually the best man, and listen to the complaint in private. It's always just been a hurt ex who wants to be dramatic and I tell them that nay, but we're proceeding, and they need to leave now. We get them e-corded out. I prepare something with a musician, if there is one, to improvise some music because obviously it's very uncomfortable. I tell the bridal party to sit down because the nerves shoot through the roof and I don't want anyone passing out. This has happened 3 times in my working career. I object on the grounds that the bride is actually 3 chipmunks in a trench coat. Go on, and the chipmunks are male. Gasp. Unless it is a massive bombshell, which rarely happens, that has the potential to change either bride or groom's mind, they just embarrass themselves. The ring bearer oversees a fight to the death between the person who objected and either the bride or groom. So this is still a thing if you get married in a church. It's not phrased as does anyone object, but as does anyone know any reason why these 2 people cannot be married. When I got married last year, the priest explained to us that if someone objects, he takes the couple and the objector back to his office. He then determines whether it's a valid objection, of which there are only 3 kinds. One of you has been married before and is not yet divorced. One of you is under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and therefore cannot legally consent. Or one of you is not who you say you are, too young, too closely related, etc. If it's a valid objection, the ceremony is off. If it's not a valid objection, priest calls the cops to have the objector removed. Ceremony then continues. Edit, just to note that this was in Ontario, Canada. It may be different elsewhere. That question was traditionally asked in case either the bride or groom was already married and it was bigamy, or if the bride and groom were secretly siblings or cousins and it would be incest or that sort of thing. It generally wasn't asked because someone else was in love with the bride or groom. I want to go to a wedding when that happens. In some places it can actually halt the wedding. I have some friends in Seattle that go married on April 1st because it was the best day for everyone. They made it expressly clear to all invited that in that state, an objection makes it illegal for the officiant to complete the ceremony. If I recall correctly, it's like a 24-72-hour wait if someone objects. They ended up just taking that part out of the vows altogether. Thumb war. The wedding DJ plays a record scratch his FX. You're allowed to speak. Doesn't mean anyone else has to care. While you were sleeping, I love the scene where everyone objects. Every wedding should have security, and not the drunk ones. There was a time when bans of marriage apes n.wikipedia.org wiki bans of marriage, an announcement of intent to wed, were read from the pulpit during Sunday services. Anyone with a valid objection could contact the pastor before the ceremony. She has to marry the new guy.